We're two best friends.
Two mediums that live in a virtual dream house.
Have our podcast taped and find out what happens when spirits get real.
Real funny. By the way, if you don't like cuss words, Dana, what are we rated?
We're rated M for mediumship, or Matt's immature.
I thought it was Matt is awesome, but whatever. Enjoy this episode.
This is I'm a Medium.
Ask me how.
I'm a medium, so ask me how.
Hello, Matthew Tao.
Hello, Dana Willie.
Oh, those are soft, dulcet tones you're coming at me with.
Yeah, you're listening to a new episode of I'm a Medium, Ask Me How.
The softer, gentler. No, never mind.
I ain't
never
softer
gonna
or
be
gentler.
Oh, as the...
Put the rage on the page, ladies.
That's speaking of pages, we're going to talk about keeping our eyes on our own paper today.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to give homage, give credit to one of our dear friends and somebody that has been a mentor you've actively taken mentorship from, but I think of him as a mentor as well, Michael Mayo. One of his top pieces of advice that he has always given his students, and he has repeatedly given us, is keep your eyes on your own paper. And I thought that I got it like the first time he gave it to me, but I don't think I got it until recently.
There's this little feeling, because when he originally said keep your eyes on your own paper, there's a little part of you that's always like, but what about my friends, right? Or like you have to give something up to keep your eyes on your own paper. And now I think, being on the other side of this past year and a half, I think I now truly know it takes a while to get there, to understand the understanding. There's that word again, the understanding of what does that mean to keep your eyes on your own paper, and what the cost is to keep your eyes on your own paper, because nothing is free, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing is free.
No, but your piece is priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, that was good. That was good.
An Amex commercial. Coffee $5.99. Travel $1,000. Self-worth priceless.
Yeah. But it when I first heard keep your eyes on your own paper, we first think of, when we step into our mediumship journey, of not comparing ourselves to anybody else. And that's really important, of course, right? We don't want to compare, so-and-so's reading better than me, or they got way better evidence than I did, or their clairvoyance is much stronger than mine. Or even to put ourselves before somebody else, like I'm a far better reader than so-and-so, right? Anytime that we are comparing or contrasting ourselves against anybody else, that's not good. And it's taking the focus off of ourselves and where it needs to be. And so when I first heard keeping your eyes on your own paper, that's kind of what I thought of. And that's great. And I think that every medium needs to focus on that. I think every medium needs to focus on not ever comparing themselves. There will always be a medium that's better than you. There will always be a medium that has a greater ability at XYZ than you do. And that's okay. You are beautiful and amazing in your own way. If you are always trying to be better than somebody else, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And again, you're putting all of your energy outside of yourself. And what was coming to me in the shower today, and what kind of brought us to do this podcast today, is the idea of control. And control is such an interesting topic, because control is what really gets in the way of our mediumship. Control is such a fallacy. And at the end of the day, we can't control shit. We think we can control all of these factors and things in our life. And there's certain things that we can have input on, and we can make better choices and those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, the only thing that we have control of is ourselves. And that's why it's so important to keep your eyes on your own paper, because I can't be focused on what Matt's doing on his paper because I don't have control over that. I only have control over what I'm doing over here. And the more that I'm focused on what somebody else is doing over on their side of the fence, or what they're doing in their practice, or what they said about so and so, that's energy and time that I'm taking from my own practice, my own self development, my own control over what I actually have control over. And I think it's so incredibly empowering to see where we can take back our control in our life. Again, the secret being is the only thing you have control over is yourself.
Hmm. Uh, what's really funny is I did this. I don't want to say automatic writing. It's not automatic writing, but it was inspired speech through like my app, and I was asking Spirit when I was doing this exercise of like, how do you keep your eyes on your own paper, and kind of like not judging other people, but staying within your own limits. And they wrote it, and I've been trying to figure out where I'm going to put this because I was like, oh, I'm going to make a post about it. But then my brain was like, well, you can't take a screenshot of it and then record it, and then you're going to look like you're reading it. But what a better place to put it than on this podcast? Because I think it's very appropriate. So, do you mind if I read what they
Please
put?
do.
Okay. So I'm gonna kind of like write, like I'm gonna read it, but I'm gonna break down some stuff afterwards. So spiritual practices, relationships, exploration is an individual journey. What we've experienced both as a spiritual practitioner, spiritualist, and self-proclaimed critic is that everyone is looking at spirit through different lenses, different perspectives, distances, and some further along in their path, while some are just starting. No guru, medium, teacher, or practitioner should ever give you the answers you seek, but lead you to the path of self discovery. The ultimate teacher is spirit itself. When you judge somebody else's spiritual practice, personality, or the way they practice to elevate your own beliefs, it only illuminates the insecurities, pain, and how we try to make ourselves feel safe and important. When we pass judgment on our fellow brothers and sisters in this work, it only shows that we haven't comprehended previous lessons. Self soothing our ego might make us feel good for a short amount of time, but how can we be compassionate or understanding that somebody might be behind on certain things, but further along on other parts of their path? Negating the work of the other person and losing our own path in the process only leads backwards. The spirit world has no map, no compass, only connection. When we pass judgment onto someone else, we are only encouraging disconnection, which is the opposite message of what they want us to know, that we are connected, connected for reasons and lessons we don't know until we reflected on the other side of life. When you want to compare to elevate self, realize that the ocean does not compare itself to the sky, but knows that it needs the sky to rain to stay full. And without the trees, there would be no air. And without air, there would be no fire. And without fire, no creation. Do not look down at others to meet our standard, but lead them to know that they will one day see the hurdles they trip over in the race of life, and that is their lesson. But be a hand that helps pick them up when they fall, and without a lecture of where they went wrong, but teach them to jump over by showing them how you jump and run and land in your own unique way.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what they said to me on this topic. And I was trying to find a perfect place to put this. But I am a self-proclaimed critic. And I know that. And I think that's part of my journey. And I think what I've realized is I don't need to fit in anywhere. And that was the hugest part. That's a lot of what I was having issue with, was like looking at what other people were doing on their paper and going, no, stop, don't do that. And it took away from my time to jump and hurdle and over. And I was comparing people and putting them on the standard that I felt was right. Like, you need to read this way, or you need to believe what I believe in, because it was really trying to illuminate my insecurity of saying, it took me a really long time to get here, and I'm seeing you struggle and I'm seeing you hurt people, but I was missing the point. I was missing the boat. I was comparing the sky to the ocean, and I didn't realize that the ocean reaches for the sky with every gust of wind to try to touch its beauty, because the ocean knows that it never can touch it, right? But it's okay to be the ocean. I didn't need to be the sky and the ocean at the same time, because I didn't realize that evaporation brings the ocean to the sky, and that's an automatic thing. And I know all these analogies. It was mind blowing on how the spirit world said, we're just worry about the connection part, but everything else does not matter at the end of the day. And not putting value into groups of people, right? Because I think we try to find, especially as mediums, because we've all been this hurt child all of our life, this odd duck out, this disconnection from normalcy, because we've been having experiences throughout our life that really kind of put us off as other. That we, when we find groups of people, we put our value in being accepted within that group, and we put all of our effort of trying to conform within this hive, that we sometimes look the other way at other people hurting other people to try to fit in with that and accept that, hey, I need to be a part of this group and I'm going to condone this, because if I was to speak out, I'm other, and it puts me back at to where I am. So I'm going to start looking at my eyes on my other people's paper, but try to copy them to try to stay within this mold while other people are getting hurt. That's my experience with that. And I think what I realized within this conversation with spirit is that's gonna happen. There's no control for me to try to control that. It's gonna happen. So what can I do? I can just remove myself and create healthy boundaries for myself of saying, you're losing focus. I think that was a huge aha moment. What are your thoughts on anything that I just said? I would love to hear your
Well,
take.
you just said losing focus, and what I was being drawn to was feeling like losing self,
Mm-hmm.
losing identity, losing who I am. And I feel that when, for me, um, you had said something about wanting to, like, I see where you're at, I'll fix it, I'll make it better, I'll make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of us want to swoop in and help, and it doesn't come from a nefarious place or a place of like just ill will or anything like that. We It truly comes from a place of like, I want to help you. I even thought about this from the context of children, right? Like, I'm a mom of two,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say they're struggling in school and they just need help getting that homework in. I could certainly do their homework for them and they could pass the class, but how is that really helping them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exerting energy that I may not have to do, and I'm sacrificing a lot in my energy, in my ethics, in my thing to help in the short run. But they're getting nothing out of it because they've got to go through to what spirit spoke through in your inspired writing there, of they've got to go through those hurdles. They've got to figure out how to jump and run and fall on their face and pick themselves back up. That's their journey. That's I can be there to support them through that, but not do the work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that when we are called to be healers or helpers or whatever in this world, which if you're a medium or a psychic, or we're certainly called to this type of work, there is this Mm. Something like put on a pedestal about self-sacrifice. And I don't think that that is as good as it sounds like it is. We don't need to self-sacrifice ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to put ourselves last all the time. And I feel that for me, and this has been a big part of my journey, is I was self-sacrificing my own comfort level to make other people comfortable. And I've done a lot of healing on this topic for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a recovering people pleaser, and as much as I thought I had done on that work, I was continuing to people please, and in ways that I still didn't recognize that I was doing it. I was staying in places that I didn't want to rock the boat. Like if I left those communities or those places, I would be rocking the boat. I would be making somebody uncomfortable. So it was easier for me to stay uncomfortable than to make somebody uncomfortable for a half a second. And I had to sit with that and go, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
And that's me putting my focus on somebody else when really the focus should be on, am I really bringing anything to that table? Number one. And number two, why am I self sacrificing my own comfort levels and what truly brings me joy
Mhm.
to do that? And, you're famous for saying, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I think that there are so many areas in our life where we do things to make other people comfortable. We stay in relationships because we don't want to rock the boat. We can be friends with person A, but not be friends with everybody else they're friends with. And that's
Mhm.
okay. And I think we need to normalize that also. It's okay to let things go when they no longer light us up anymore, and not make it an evil or bad thing, like they're a bad person now. They're just not part of our next chapter. I think part of our spiritual growth is we change and grow very rapidly. We always
Mhm.
talk about personal development being part of a huge part of our spiritual development. And as we're personally developing and growing, we change who we are very much through this. And we're all going to grow and change at different paces. And if somebody isn't for us anymore, it doesn't make them a bad person. And it doesn't make me a bad person for not wanting to hang out with that anymore. I'm just going somewhere else.
Yeah. I think everything starts in cycles, right? So we look at nature, we have spring, summer, fall, winter, right? And then it starts over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And I think for like a spirituality point perspective, we have like the awakening, which is like spring, right? We're coming into knowledge. We're starting to find our footing. We're not quite bloomed enough to be picked, but I think that's like in the awakening phase. Then we have the knowledge phase. So like we're gathering knowledge. We're seeking others out that are in a similar journey. We're trying to find our truth. Fall is more of like, groups of people, celebration, harvest, and all that stuff. But winter, I believe, is self. I think when you start to realize you're yourself, and there's nothing wrong with being and checking in where you are in those phases, because when you're in self, you have time to pause for another spring awakening, right? You're going to find something new. You're going to be excited. You're going to want to share. You're going to want to say that you're the best. And then you're going to go back into self. And there's these phases. And I think that it's okay, kind of piggybacking off of what you've stated, that sometimes it's okay to have that self pause, to step away from everybody, and it's not so much their fault that you're stepping away, but that you're going in within a self moment. You're going into the hermit card, right? You're going in because you know that if you were to continue on with the way that you're going, that you're going to end up having a tower moment. And it's okay, because I think the hermit leads into a tower moment. I think, and it's preparing for that transition to let things shed away and not have it be so self-destructive. And I know for me, within the situation in the spiritual community, that I obviously cause some sort of harm to other people just by existing. Do you know what I mean? Like, either whether it be the way I say things, the way that I have stances on things, but that's my self moment. I'm having my self moment. So I'm opting right now to remove myself, to have a true self moment, to not have to worry about what other people's opinions are of what I say, but truly find my voice and be okay with where I'm at. Now that might have some fray, or what do you call it? Crossfire, friendly
Mhm.
fire. Do you know what I mean? But like, that is part of the self phase that I feel like that I'm in currently, is, do I need to have the approval of other people in this community, especially with what I know now? And I think understanding that people go people, I say this is like my life motto now. People are going to people, and I think when you've got a bunch of unhealed people that are healing along the way that are at different phases, I'm not here to judge anybody, and I think removing myself allows you to go through your seasons maybe just with a little bit more less pressure of having me be there. I'm really comfortable within this like self mode that I have, and and I know with TikTok going potentially going away, I think like it was almost like a blessing for me to sort of see it go away. Where I was like, okay, if I go away, it just I can reinvent myself. But I think like that reinvention within self is so critical and so important, and that's truly when you realize within that self moment that you find the definition of eyes on your own paper. Because I think when you're in the other three seasons, it's finding it, finding the information, then wanting to share it with everybody. But then when you're sharing it with everybody, you're so busy talking about these loud goals or knowledge that you lose track of it because you can't take self with you the entire four seasons.
Mhm. I love that. We don't have to bring we I don't like to live life in regret, but I like to learn from where I've been and have it move me forward, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we have to be who we were 2 seconds ago. I don't think we have to be who we were 2 days ago, 2 years ago. We're constantly changing and growing, and every day, every moment is an opportunity to shed things about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my spirit animal is a snake, and that is
Hey.
because I'm a snake. But it's because a snake sheds its skin. It's malleable. It changes, and it doesn't hold on to being the same all the time. And it's comfortable with change. It's comfortable with shedding what no longer serves it. And we don't have to fit into a perfect box our entire life. And the
Mm-hmm.
more that we shed the need to be something for somebody else, the more we become authentically ourselves. And through that, we actually become everything that everybody else needs. It's this,
Mm-hmm.
the less that we're trying to be everything that everybody else wants us to be, the more authentically we shine, and the people that we're meant to help, we just naturally help without even trying. It's this
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing. You know, I find that with the spirit world, the it's much easier than we make it out to be. Humans
Mm-hmm.
make it really hard. We try, we effort a lot, but when we just simply are present and we don't try, that's when the most magic happens with the spirit world. And I think that that's even more so with ourselves. The more that we take off the mask, the I need to be this certain way, or I need to show up in the world this certain way, and just show up exactly how we are, there are going to be people that don't like you, and that is okay. You're not meant for people to like, for everybody to like you, but you are going to shine so bright for the people that you are meant for.
I just had this crazy thought when you were talking that like you literally verbatim said what I was going to say, but just in a unique way. Where I said, "Look, it just popped in my head. Uh, think about the energy that you waste to be other things for other people, and you're still going to be the opposite of that to somebody else, right? So, I think the most freeing thing that you can possibly do is to release the constraint of having to show up inauthentic for other people, because when if you're trying to project you're this great person the whole time, you're still somebody else's villain. So
Yep.
look about how much energy you've wasted to try to convince other people or to meet the needs of what other people need you to be, but just rather than showing up 100% yourself and just not caring what other people think about you because you're too busy having your eyes on your own paper. I made a very interesting video on my TikTok where I just listed the things that made me me. And I think like like I highly encourage the listeners that are listening to this podcast to really just sit down with yourself. Who the fuck are you? Who are you? What do you bring to this world? Even good, bad, and ugly. So, like for me, I said in my video, I'm messy. Like I have your crochet. So when Dana came out here on Christmas, she gave me a finger blanket. She's fingering a blanket for me. It's still in the bag right there, right? I'm a procrastinator. I know I'm going to get to it, but I'm going to own that part of me of being like, I'll get to it when I get to it, and that I don't need to make this blanket to make Dana happy, but I'm going to do it when I feel inspired to do it. And that doesn't mean because Dana bought it that I need to do it. I'm going to do it at my own pace, but that's who I am. And embracing that part of it. And if I don't like that I'm procrastinating on the fingering this blanket, that's something that I can change, and I can change that. But I have so much control. You said we don't have control of everything. We have control of ourselves.
That's the only thing we have control over.
We totally do. We only have controls with ourselves, but we can control what we like and what we don't like about ourselves. And if something is out of our scope, like let's say it's a mental health thing, you have resources that you can reach out to get that hand. And there is no shame in asking for help. There is no shame. There's this stigma on mental health in the spiritual community. Let me tell you, take your medicine, take your prescription. Don't let anybody tell you, diagnose you in this community unless they are a licensed professional that
No,
is
even
not
if they're a
practicing a
licensed
spiritual thing.
professional, then you should be in a private session
Correct.
with them.
That is not spiritually practicing on you.
Mhm.
You didn't let me finish my sentence.
Sorry.
Um, you're right. So it should be you, yourself, and I asking for help from the things that are the right avenue for you, that no spiritual practitioner can diagnose you for something, and there's no shame in that, and it's
Yeah.
no shame in being where you are. Celebrate that you're going through a hard time because you're learning so much in that space. Why am I talking like that?
I don't know, but
Oh, but
I think
yeah.
I you had mentioned the tower moment, and
Uh-huh.
it's it doesn't matter when you guys are listening to this episode, but we're entering in we just had the lunar eclipse last night. We're entering into Mercury retrograde in a few days. Then we have a solar eclipse. And we're kind of ripe, and it's the timing for this podcast is actually quite perfect with all
Mm-hmm.
of the astrological weather, if you will, because it's a
Spoils our
time
lords.
for it's a time for reflection, and it's a time where some of these uglier parts of us, or ouchier parts of us, will reflect on us, and we get to sit with that, and it's not fun. If you think that it's fun to face these things, it's not. But it's an opportunity for you to say, this is what this is. How can I grow? How can I learn from it? How can I move? What can I do with this? Because going back to that control piece, things in life are going to happen to us. Bad things, and I'm doing quotations because I don't really believe anything is good or bad. It's just life happens. But we have control over what how we respond to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could get a jury summons. You have control over how you're going to respond to that, and finding where your control is in a situation and how you're going to respond to it. If you're having some depression issues, you have the ability to control calling a mental health provider, asking for help, getting the
Mm-hmm.
resources you need. If somebody makes you mad, you have control over how you're going to respond to that. And I'm going to tell you, it's okay to have anger in your life. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. But you can also decide whether you're going to punch somebody in the face,
Mm-hmm.
or you can have control over, I'm going to say it with words, I'm going to remove myself from the situation, then I'm going to scream in an empty room where I'm not going to actively hurt somebody's feelings. We have control in those situations to still experience our anger, still experience whatever emotions we're having, but not take other people down with us.
Can we normalize something? I know this is eyes on your own paper, but can we normalize having a full, well rounded set of emotions as a spiritual practitioner. Can we
Absolutely.
normalize that, please? Because that would make it a lot more grace for other people to have emotions and be human. Because I do feel like there's a little bit of a perception from the general public that mediums are some sort of like superior, I'm connected more than you are. No, we are human, man. We are human and we have all the human emotions. But let's just normalize, like, if a medium's mad, the medium is mad. It's a title. The human is mad because
Hmm.
we are having spiritual experiences just like everybody else. And it would be more easier to have the eyes on our own paper when we are looking at the disassociation, um, and what is it when you look down on people? What is that? What's that word I'm looking
Judgment.
for? Judgment, that this person is not as spiritual because they're having a human emotion. So when we normalize that, and I give you permission, I'm giving my listeners permission to have a full wide range of emotionally intelligent moments. It's grace. That is grace, and that makes it easier to do that eyes on the own paper thing because you feel less crazy and disassociated. Because I think what bothered me the most, it was comparison on having emotions. Because I would look at like John Edward and I'd look at Tyler Henry, and they're like love and no, you know. I mean, John Edward not so much, but Tyler Henry is just very happy all the time. And when you're not that, and you're in the public eye, it, or you have some sort of following, when you're not meeting that, you're like, I'm damaging my career. But for me, I think the ownership within that helped me was they get to see growth, they get to see vulnerability, they get to see that we are human and that we get to fall down and get back up and have a wide range of emotions. But now they get to see me, like going into that speech that Spirit did, now they get to see me stand up and jump over the next hurdle and pick my feet up. And that was a lot of eyes on my own paper moments, was like fucking owning that, and I felt
I was
so
just
good
gonna
about
say, I
that.
was like, if that's not a eyes on your own fucking paper moment, I don't know what it is. Like when
Mm-hmm.
we sit there and compare ourselves to uh, John Edward, Tyler Henry, name it, whoever. What is that? That's the same thing. Who says that we have to act a certain way?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I think that we need to talk about is everybody is fighting a battle that nobody is aware of.
Wait, what,
And
huh? Say that one more time for the children.
everyone is fighting a battle that nobody else is aware of. You
Uh
don't know
huh.
what is happening behind closed doors. A lot of us will put a happy face on and say like, "Hi everybody, how are you?" But you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what my life has been. You don't know where I've been, what I'm dealing with currently.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a lot of judgment on somebody in the way that they might be dealing with or handling something when we don't understand the context of how maybe they came to be the person that they are or what they might be going through currently.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I give full permission and right to anybody to say, like, I don't like how they're handling that. You have control to say, I henceforth give this person no more of my attention. I swipe away, I block, I don't give them any more of my attention. But I think that we are so quick in our society to pass fail people and
Mm-hmm.
have judgment over somebody and say, this person is good, this person is bad. I've seen the people who smile the biggest do the most evil things behind closed doors, and I've seen people that are like a little more gruff and like cold on the front be the warmest people but behind closed doors. And
Mm-hmm.
so unless you have personal experience with somebody, reserve your judgment, do it on your own experience. Stop basing everything on hearsay and rumors. What is your personal experience? If
Oh,
your personal experience doesn't make you feel comfortable, run away. Nobody, there is no law that you have to be in anybody's presence, that you have to entertain any time with any single human being. If they don't make you feel comfortable, move forward. Life is too fucking short. But also know that, like, whenever we're getting into these like little drama moments of like, oh, half of it is bullshit, if not more.
90% of it
And
is.
and it turns into a game of telephone. They said what? They said what? And by the time it got down three people deep, the story completely changes and gets morphed. And
Hmm.
unless you were the person that had the actual interaction, stay out of it. It had nothing to do with you. If you want to talk about, that's not even keeping your eye on your own paper. That paper is like 20 zip codes down. Like you can't even see their paper, but you're still talking about their paper.
Hmm. I think that's where boundaries come in. You know what I mean? So like I've just removed myself. Because what I've learned about the spiritual community as a whole is they bored. They really bored. The amount of time that they could be putting their eyes on their own paper, working on their own craft, but they're so worried about being surpassed or usurped by somebody else that they've got to tear them down to make themselves feel some sort of way. It's astronomical, and I don't think that it's been a TikTok issue. I think this has been since the dawn of fucking mediumship, because everybody's looking at the same glass from different distances and perspectives, trying to say that their opinions right. This has taught me so much. This situation that I'm currently going through has taught me so much of I heard these words like keep your eyes on your own paper and it shouldn't matter and say it with a gentler lens and all this, but until you go through it, until you really go through it, you can't go through the darkness without seeing the light. And so nobody can warn you on stuff. Go through the darkness, go through the darkness. It's really been empowering, for me anyway. It's been empowering. It's been aha moments. It's been light bulb moments. It's really development. Like I'm getting a lot of development out of this, and it's been a joy. I actually have to say I look back and I regret nothing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really kind of humbled me. It's humbled me in my experience. It's humbled me into knowing that my paper is just as valuable as everybody else's, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to say my paper is the best. But really, ultimately, the gossiping, you're going to get that anywhere. If you know who you are, if you show up truly who you are, it shouldn't matter what anybody else says about you. If you know who you are, because people will always be there to take you down, because people are insecure. They want what you have. And when people talk about you, so like let's say if people are talking about you, okay, that means you have power. Just take a moment, let that sink in. You have power over somebody else that they are trying to pay attention to your paper. You have the upper hand, so walk away, because you don't deserve to give anybody your power. You don't give anybody your attention. Keep focusing on yourself, keep shining. Don't worry about it. And I'm going to say this to you, and I know that you're driving in the car being like, you're right, and you're going to give your power away in 2 minutes. I know that. But that's how you get there. That's how you start realizing you're like, look, if I just give them maybe 5% less, and then tomorrow I give them 10% less, and you just self check in of how much power am I giving out to other people, and how much can I just take back. So tomorrow I'm going to take back, okay, if I give them 5, I'm going to take back 10. And you just take a little bit back, and you just start putting that energy towards something that you really want out of life. You know how much happier our lives would be?
Mm-hmm.
You know how much more we could get done?
Yeah.
Dude,
Well,
it's liberating, man. I'm liberated.
yeah. Well,
Take my top off.
I think the more that, I mean, I know that this is kind of going off somewhere else, but I think the more that we can just have honest conversations, I mean,
I
that
love you.
I love you too. I think the more that we can have honest conversations,
Mm-hmm.
the more that we can. I've seen so much assuming.
Mm-hmm.
I think the less we can assume, how somebody feels, and we can just go
Yeah.
directly to the source and say, hey, I'm feeling some sort of way, and this is why I feel this way. Or, hey, I'm I wish you well. I'm kind of going in a different direction. You know, be okay having a hard conversation. Be okay hearing difficult things about you. I promise you. And try not to be defensive about it, but listen, hear it out, grow from it. I think that this is all part of the whole process, and we're all here to learn and grow, and nobody said that life and being a human is easy, but just just take a moment, just slow down. I think when you really sit and focus on how much of your energy and your focus is going on things that really are A, outside of your control, B, have nothing to do with you, and C, like aren't moving you forward. When you can reevaluate all of that and start to refocus that in on where you want to go and what you want to do on your life will change overnight. It really
Hmm.
will. And you'll be a whole lot happier for it.
But on the flip side, too, to your point, you owe nobody anything. So if you go to them for an explanation, or you go to them to have that conversation, or you don't go to them at all, you don't owe anybody anything. And I think that's where we feel like sometimes we owe somebody a conversation. Sometimes you just don't. And sometimes you're just going to choose yourself to just kind of be like, hey, like, I don't think I'm ready for that conversation. So I'm just going to quietly be over here. And when I'm ready to have that conversation, if I have to have that conversation, I will. But I think that sometimes it's okay to be selfish and just kind of be like, I don't owe you anything. So I'm just going to be on my way. I love you. Bye.
Mhm.
And that's okay too. So I want you to know that it's okay to have that moment as well. And when you realize that you don't owe anybody anything, but you owe yourself to at least be happy, because you do owe
Mhm.
yourself that. You deserve a happy life. I think everybody does. That you'll make the right decision for you,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think at the end of the day, and as a beautiful way to wrap this all up, is it's okay to be uncomfortable in the short term.
Mm,
It really,
mm,
some of the things that we're talking about will make you uncomfortable in the short term, and that's okay. But really, in the long term, it builds greater authenticity, greater happiness, and greater success. It really does. And I hope that you all can take a few moments, and this is your homework. We love giving homework. Where can you bring more focus onto you?
who are you?
Who
Who
are
are
you?
you? Hmm. This is fun. Well, Dana, eyes on your own, papers up, cheating, bitch. I'm
Well, we
such a
love you
cheater.
guys. We love you
Yeah,
guys so much.
yeah. We'll see you later. Goodbye. See ya. You're the light of 100,000 papers. You're a spiral notebook of love.
Don't get any paper cuts. We love you. Bye.
So, Dana, every single time you went like this, you said something, I wanted to go, the laser.
The
The
laser.
Alan Parsons project. uh,
The laser.
hey, Dana, I want you to keep your eyes on your own paper.
Laser.
The laser.
Is that
That's
our
the outro.
outro? There. Perfect.